Welcome back to Her Daily Rhythm, the podcast dedicated to empowering you, women, to live in harmony with your mind, body, and spirit. I'm Natalie Smythe, your host, and I'm thrilled to guide you on this journey with FemVed, a holistic wellness platform for women from menstruation to menopause, making health management easy and stress-free. So in the episodes that follow, we are taking you on a journey through the seasons of your life. Season 1 is focusing on how your daily rhythms affect your body through food, nutrition, herbs, and lifestyle factors. Season 2, we go into movement and how that affects you. Season 3, your emotional body. So it's going to be juicy, but let's kick off with episode 1. So I want to start at the beginning here. So up until very recently in the literature, our textbooks and doctors have spoken about our cycle and periods in relation to pregnancy. If pregnancy does not occur, menstruation will commence, meaning that pregnancy is the normal and expected outcome, and that menstruation is the abnormal event. Physiologically and historically, absolutely, yes, this was the case. Though I believe now we don't think of menstruation as a missed opportunity to conceive, but rather a relief because you know you're not pregnant, unless you're obviously planning to conceive. And historically, as I'm sure you're aware, menstruating women were outlawed from society. So I want to read you a couple of these facts at the time that our great-grandmothers and beyond experienced. I want to read you a couple of these stories just to remind you the context of how far we've come. And although these stories seem ridiculous, they're just the beginning and our ancestors experienced them. So the prevailing belief that was menstrual blood was extremely poisonous and toxic, not only to menstruating women, but also to anyone else in the vicinity. It was even thought to be the origin of period pain because its toxicity caused pain by harming the tissues it touched. Having sex with a menstruating woman was also forbidden on pain of death, either by contact with the blood itself or by church decree. At any rate, a child was born from such an act would be deformed, leprous, have red hair, or be a girl. My poor red mavens. And scholars continue to compare the male and female anatomy. The male was the standard of normalcy, and the female his inferior other half. This could be seen in the anatomy of the male and female genitalia. The male perfect and complete, with genitals turned outward, and the female imperfect, incomplete, with genitals turned inward. And so then you hear in 1873, an American medical professor at Harvard wrote that although he believed women had the right to do anything they were physically capable of, they should not study. The reproductive system of the female, he said, was incapable of normal development while a woman was engaged in academic pursuits, because the female body was incapable of doing two things well at the same time. So this argument was used to deny a higher education to women who wanted it. And then I had to finish with this one. Chefs had been known to prevent women from entering their kitchen in case they were menstruating, and curdled a sauce or a souffle by their very presence. And I'm sure in different countries and cultures, the stories are obviously even worse. So we now know from multi-generational epigenetics, epigenetic information is passed to you by at least 3 generations. So the stories and traumas of your grandparents may be impacting you. So as science proves this to be true, that means these stories may live inside of us. And as ridiculous as these stories are very real. Just to give you a slight example of this, go to the memory of your first period. For some, it might have been joyful and it was a natural transition. But for example, for me, I hid my period from my mother for 3 months until she found the evidence. I had all of these feelings of shame and fear and safety. But where does this come from? There could be many things to unpack here. But on the surface level, I came from a really safe, loving family. So what was going on epigenetically inside me from a trauma that it was not safe for me to be a woman? I would have been, fill in the blank, sold off to be married, or I'd have to fend for myself, further requirements for food, etc. So I invite you to revisit these moments in your life, and we can rewrite these stories. And if you have girls that are being prepared for menstruation, prepare them when the time comes. Hold a ceremony for this beautiful transition in their lives. And thanks to what has been deemed the invention that defined the 20th century, in 1960, the FDA approved the world's first birth control pill that was rolled out to married women, and then subsequently the rest of the global north, and then introduced to India and parts of the global south in the 1980s. So this new technology gave women the right to choose, control their reproductive lives, and save millions from unsafe abortion. So the pill came to be seen as the liberator and a significant step forward for women's equal rights. But now, 60 to 30 years on from our forebears, we are in a new epoch. We have wisdom from our past, and if you're listening to this podcast, you have freedom and liberation in ways your grandmother could never have dreamed of. We are not institutionalized for having our period. Yet on the other spectrum, despite our medical advancements and interventions, we're seeing epidemic rises in loneliness, anxiety, depression, burnout, fertility issues, excruciating painful periods, PCOS, endometriosis, gut problems, migraines, and increases in hysterectomies, rises in cancer, and being completely dissatisfied and unsatisfied from life itself and cut off from our bodies. So clinical research on women's body only started in the 1960s. So that means all of the medications you have been taking have rarely ever been tested on a woman's body. So what does all of this mean, and what am I trying to say here? We are having a new epoch. We don't outsource our power. Our power, our sovereignty, our creativity is within. And we are joined in this community. There should be no competition between women because each and every 3.95 billion of us is unique, beautiful, and has something so special to share. All of you. And I want you to become obsessed and in love with your cycle because it is your fifth vital sign, giving you clues and information daily through your secretions, your mood, your energy, your sleep, your skin, everything. So that's why knowing your body from the inside out is so important, and now with the help of FemTech Revolution putting us on the map to help us with these solutions. FemVed, my partner, being one of them. So in this episode, I'm really just taking us back to the basics because we need our fundamentals, right? So let's go. What is a period? Firstly, what names did you call it growing up? I mean, I grew up calling it on the rags, Fred, Mouse in the Hole. I've heard Shark Week, Aunt Flo is popular, having the painters in, Granny stuck in traffic, mad cow's disease. I mean, they're all quite hilarious, and I haven't heard the last one. But these attitudes have changed for the better, but have they changed enough? And do you feel confident telling your partner, your lover, you have your period and happy to walk around the office with your sanitary products in hand? So what is a period? It's the shedding of the endometrium, the layer of tissues that line your uterus, which occurs every single month for most women. Menstrual loss looks like blood, but it's composed of other tissues and secretions from the inside of the uterus. So small amounts of blood from the capillaries that feed the muscular wall of the uterus, mucus from the glandular cells found in your endometrium, and small amounts of tissues from inside the uterus and the remnants from the structures within this endometrium. And these elements are all shed during your menstruation. It's an incredible time to expel and detoxify waste and release any information. And so this is incredible that we are so lucky that our bodies can remove this buildup of waste naturally because men don't have this process. So let's get into the basics of hormone mastery and understanding this rhythm that happens inside your body every month. Now, an expert practitioner that I love, Dr. Carrie Jones, she gives this wonderful analogy of the hormonal cycle as a monthly roller coaster. And I love this analogy, so I'm going to put it in my own words and explain it to you. So imagine you're just stepped onto a roller coaster. One you ride every month. This isn't just any roller coaster because it's a controlled ride that loops and dips in a specific pattern, taking you through the ups and downs of your menstrual cycle. Let's start at the beginning of this ride, your brain. Your brain is like the conductor of the roller coaster, the one who gives the signals and controls the ride. Specifically, two parts of your brain are the heart of this, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. And so the hypothalamus is like the control tower, gathering all of the information about what's happening inside and outside your body, and then sends signals to the pituitary gland, which, like the dispatcher, sends messages down to your ovaries to get things moving. So as the roller coaster begins, your brain signals that it's time to start the ride. Your period begins. This is like the slow ascent of the roller coaster where everything is being prepared. Your ovaries, surrounded by tiny sacs called follicles, each containing an egg, start receiving these messages from the brain. And so, menstrual phase. This is like days 1 to 5, but it can change. Rest and reflect. This is a time for self-care and gentle activities. So ideally, you can plan your work schedule around doing smaller tasks at this time. You'll be much more efficient and switched on for the rest of your cycle, doing double what you imagine if you really honored your own cycle during this time. So we want to nourish our bodies during menstrual phase, particularly focusing on our iron-rich foods and hydrating well. And so the next part of this roller coaster is climbing the hill, the production of your hormones. And as you climb the first big hill of this roller coaster, your ovaries start producing hormones. First, the outer cells of the follicle produce androgen hormones like testosterone. And these androgens then move inward to another layer of your cells called granulosa cells, where they're converted into estrogens, specifically estradiol, the strongest form of estrogen. And this phase where your estrogen levels build up is like the steady climb up the roller coaster. Your body is preparing for ovulation, the moment when the egg is released. And when estrogen reaches its peak, it signals to the brain to release a hormone called luteinizing hormone, LH, which you've seen probably in tests, which triggers ovulation. And so this is the follicular stays roughly around 6 to 14 days. Your energy rises, making it perfect for creativity, socializing, planning, and you'll be inclined to eat lighter, whole foods, smoothies, and things like that. So next, we go in this loop-de-loop, ovulation and beyond. Now imagine the roller coaster reaching its peak and then plunging down in the thrilling loop-de-loop at ovulation. The egg is released, estrogen levels drop, and your body shifts into gears. The cells that produce estrogen now transform into the corpus luteum, a structure that pumps out progesterone and a little bit of estrogen. So this is the second half of your cycle where progesterone takes the lead. It's like the roller coaster cruising along smoothly after the big drop. Progesterone is calming, helping to soothe your mood, promote sleep, and prepare your body in case of pregnancy. So if you don't get pregnant, then the ride continues and the roller coaster starts descending once again as progesterone and estrogen levels drop, leading to your next period. So through the ovulation phase, again, roughly, this can change, is between days 15 to 17, peak energy and confidence. So use this time for important meetings, intense workouts, and connection. And incorporate healthy fats and plenty of fruits and antioxidants. And then when we calm down, it's in the luteal phase, so roughly days 18 to 28. It's that gradual winding down, focusing on completing tasks and preparing yourself for the menstrual stage. So you want to opt for more complex carbs to manage cravings and really balance your mood. And then if we're looking at perimenopause, the roller coaster gets a bit bumpy. It starts to change. The smooth, predictable path you've known for years becomes a little bit more erratic. Your ovaries may stop ovulating regularly, or they might produce less progesterone, leading to heavier periods, worse PMS, or even anxiety or sleep issues. It's like the roller coaster has suddenly getting a few more unexpected twists and turns. So your brain is still trying to send signals to your ovaries, but the messages just aren't getting through. So sometimes the signals come too late or too early, and your hormone levels start swinging wildly. And one day you're on a kiddie roller coaster with low hormones, and the next you're on a wild ride with high estrogen levels. So this phase can be challenging, and Understanding it helps you anticipate the changes, so it's nice to plan a little bit. Think of your hormones as members of an orchestra, with your brain as the conductor. When everything is in sync, the music is beautiful, your body functions smoothly. But when the orchestra is out of tune, when your hormones are imbalanced, you start experiencing symptoms like irregular cycles, PMS, or mood swings. Stress, poor nutrition, and exposure to endocrine disruptors can throw the whole orchestra off. Stress, for example, increases cortisol, which can interfere with the balance of estrogen and progesterone, leading to issues like irregular periods or worsened PMS. And so endocrine disruptors, environmental toxins, are like uninvited musicians who sneak into the orchestra and start playing off-key. And these chemicals found in many everyday products like plastics, cosmetics, and even some food mimic estrogen and combine to your hormone receptors, disrupting the whole natural balance. So even if your body is producing hormones correctly, these disruptors can cause symptoms like heavy periods, breast tenderness, or mood swings. And the problem is that these disruptors don't show up in standard hormone tests. So it's making it really difficult to diagnose the issue. For example, your doctor says your labs are normal, but you don't feel fine. So being aware of these disruptors and reducing your exposure to them is so crucial for maintaining hormonal balance. So what are some practical steps that we can take if you're experiencing symptoms like severe PMS, irregular periods, or mood swings? It's important to get your hormones tested, but timing is key because test your hormones in the second half of your cycle around days 19 to 21 to get an accurate picture of your progesterone levels. It's essential to check other factors like cortisol, blood sugar, and thyroid function, as they all influence your hormonal. Addressing lifestyle factors is another crucial step. Managing stress through practices like yoga, meditation, or deep breathing exercises, and paying attention to your nutrition, focusing on a diet rich in healthy fats, whole foods, and minimal processed ingredients. And importantly, minimizing your exposure to these endocrine disruptors by choosing natural and chemical-free products whenever possible. You know, the normal stuff we talk about, it's not rocket science. You just have to do it. So now you understand your hormones a bit better. Here's how we can deepen your connection with your body by tracking your cycle. Knowing where you are in your cycle helps you anticipate your physical, emotional, and energy changes. And share it with your partner too, or your housemates, because usually women that live together menstrually sync together by your pheromones, so influencing each other. Use apps like Clue or Flow or a notes app to monitor your cycle, noticing patterns in your mood, your energy, and your cravings. It's really important to include this information. And I like to journal mine. I have quite an in-depth inquiry practice, so I can go through that in another episode. Just let me know in the comments. Now, you can align your activities with your cycle. So with your work, schedule demanding tasks during follicular and ovulatory phases, and then use the luteal phase for wrap-ups and menstrual phase for reflection. And so fitness, high-intensity workouts are great during ovulation, opt for yoga or walking, calming practices during the menstrual phase, really. And social life, plan social events during the ovulation phase when you're naturally more outgoing. And then make sure that you're really daily checking in. Take a few moments each day to just breathe, tune into your body. How are you feeling emotionally and physically? And you can always adapt your routine, allow flexibility in your routine based on your cycle. Some days will require more rest, and that's okay. So the big piece here is really educating yourselves, each other, maybe doing it with a group of women. Message us, message the team at FemVed, email me, write in the comments. Let's start a community. So that's a wrap from me on this solo cast. Please share at least one takeaway you're going to include into your daily rhythm this week in the comments. And next week, I am interviewing an incredible women's health expert, and she specializes in Ayurveda and TCM. So we are truly diving deep. Until then, stay inspired, stay whole, and please Like, share, and subscribe. It means the world to us so we can create ripples. With love from me, Natalie, and FemVed.